thinks the two sides are close to wrapping things up after weeks of in-person talks. Matt Kay, ICRT News, Washington.
Investigators say a driver who killed 3 people and injured 12 others after plowing through a school crossing in Shenzhen, Taipei, was clear-headed and not debilitated by external factors. The driver, a 78-year-old man surnamed Yu, was seriously injured in the May 19th crash and later died in hospital on May 31st. According to the new Taipei District Prosecutor's Office, there were no mechanical issues with the car Yu was driving, nor were there any external factors preventing safe driving. They added that Yu had lived in the area for a long time and should have been familiar with the road conditions. Although prosecutors determined that Yu had committed murder with indirect intent, the case was closed without indictment in accordance with the law, as Yu had passed away. The Fisheries Agency is emphasizing that Taiwan has zero tolerance for mistreatment of migrant fishers after a CNN article on abuse by Taiwanese employers. The article published Saturday reports that migrant workers are reporting abuse, injury, and death in Taiwan's fishing industry and details the experiences of migrant fishermen who say their captains denied proper care when someone was injured on the job or ill. In response, the agency says it launched the Action Plan for Fisheries and Human Rights in 2022, which it says aims to improve living conditions and labor rights and implement key fishing conventions adopted by the International Labor Organization. It also reiterated its pledge to protect distant water migrant fishers who, unlike most workers in Taiwan, are exempt from the Labor Standards Act and therefore denied basic employment rights and protections such as overtime pay. In the CNN report, a migrant fishermen union representative says despite the government's rhetoric, very little has changed, while fishing industry representatives criticize the article as lacking in objectivity. Taiwan has expanded the eligibility of foreign students enrolled in overseas schools to intern in Taiwan's accommodation sector. Previously, only those students studying hospitality, culinary arts, or tourism could apply for internships in the accommodation sector, but under amended laws, eligibility has expanded to those studying recreation and sports, management, or Chinese or English. The Tourism Administration says the changes were aimed at helping to meet the demand for workers in Taiwan's tourism and lodging sector to accommodate international travelers. The amendments also add requirements that employers providing internships obtain appropriate insurance coverage for their interns. That draft bill has been made public and is undergoing a 60-day public review period when the public is asked for opinions or feedback. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs says Taiwan and Vietnam have signed an updated version of an education cooperation agreement in Taipei recently. MOFA says the agreement covers a wide range of collaborative areas, including academic research, language exchanges, and talent cultivation, and is aimed at building a closer partnership between the two countries. According to data from the Ministry of Education, there were nearly 40,000 Vietnamese students studying in Taiwan in the 2024 academic year, making Vietnam the largest source of international students in Taiwan. And statistics from Vietnam's Ministry of Education and Training shows that as of the end of 2023, Taiwan is the 5th most popular study destination for Vietnamese students globally. Birdwatchers and ecological groups from more than 30 countries are set to gather in Taichung on September 20th and 21st for the inaugural World Bird Fair. The Tourism Administration says the event will feature international exchanges through an ecology forum, country-specific ecotourism booths, and guided birdwatching tours in Dashueshan National Forest Recreation Area. Organizers say the birding event will feature bird-themed face painting and a post office stamp booklet raffle. And they say a special bird costume show will also be held. And now looking at the weather across Taiwan for this morning, we can expect partly cloudy skies with thunder showers in the north and east. highs of 35 in Taipei and 33 in Hualien. Mostly cloudy skies with occasional showers or thunder showers in the center and south, highs of 32 in Taichung and 31 in Kaohsiung. Current temperatures now, Taipei 29, Taichung 26, and Kaohsiung and Hualien both 28 degrees. Turning now to international news. U.S. President Donald Trump announced new weapons for Ukraine on Monday and threatened sanctions on buyers of Russian exports unless Russia agrees to a peace deal. It's a major policy shift brought on by frustration with Moscow's ongoing attacks on its neighbor. But Trump's threats of sanctions came with a 50-day grace period. Sarko Mogani reports.
President Trump says he'll slap tariffs on Russia if there is no agreement to end the Ukraine war within 50 days. It's the president's latest show of frustration with Vladimir Putin. He says they talk often about ending the war.
And I always hang up saying, well, that was a nice phone call. And then missile cells launched into Kiev or some other city, and it's strange.
And the war keeps going.
At a certain point, ultimately talk doesn't talk. It's got to be action. It's got to be results.
In the Oval Office, the president and NATO chief Mark Rutte laid out plans for European allies to buy American weapons and send them to Ukraine, which Rutte hopes makes Moscow think again.
I would reconsider whether I should not take negotiations about Ukraine more seriously than I was doing at the moment, if I was Vladimir Putin.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
At the same time, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has hailed Beijing's strategically valuable relations with Moscow as he met his Russian counterpart. Russia's top diplomat Sergei Lavrov was visiting Beijing after a trip to North Korea, where he received assurances of support for Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. Laura Westbrook has more.
China's top diplomat Wang Yi told Sergei Lavrov that China and Russia are the most stable, most mature, and most strategic valuable relationship between major powers in the world today. He added that the focus was on deepening strategic cooperation and jointly respond to challenges. The two ministers discussed the Korean Peninsula, the Ukraine crisis, and the Iranian nuclear issue. Russia and China declared a no-limits partnership before Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022. China considers Russia its most important ally and partner when countering U.S. strength and wants to work with Moscow to form what they call a multipolar world. Laura Westbrook, Hong Kong.
Japan's 91-year-old former Emperor Akihito has been hospitalized to adjust his heart medication. Palace officials say the former emperor was diagnosed in May with myocardial ischemia, a condition reducing blood flow to the heart. Akihito, who abdicated in 2019 and now holds the title of Emperor Emeritus, previously had heart surgery in 2012 and was diagnosed with right heart failure 3 years ago. Officials have not said how long he will stay hospitalized. Government security forces clashed with local armed groups in southern Syria, where as many as 30 people have died in fighting. The UN's Deputy Special Envoy for Syria expressed deep concern over the violence in the country, struggling for stability after a 13-year civil war. Karen Chalmers reports.
Israel has struck military tanks in southern Syria as Syrian government forces and Bedouin tribes clash with Druze militias there. Dozens of people have been killed in the fighting between local militias and clans in Syria's Sweda province. Government security forces that were sent to restore order on Monday also clashed with local armed groups. The Interior Ministry has said that more than 30 people died and nearly 100 others have been injured in that fighting. I'm Karen Chavas.
Meanwhile, local hospitals in the Gaza Strip say that Israeli strikes across the territory overnight killed at least 31 people. UN agencies have also warned that critical fuel shortages put hospitals and other critical infrastructure at risk. U.S. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held 2 days of talks last week that ended with no breakthrough in negotiations over a ceasefire or a hostage release. Meanwhile, Trump is doubling down on his support for Attorney General Pam Bondi, even as he faces criticism from his most loyal followers over the handling of the Jeffrey Epstein case. He reportedly called on some of her most vocal critics, asking them to tamp it down. Last week, the Department of Justice and the FBI released a memo confirming that the millionaire pedophile did not have a client list and that he wasn't murdered to cover it up. A conspiracy Trump and his team have long pushed. Tony Waterman has more.
In a social media post, President Trump says he doesn't know why MAGA is attacking Pam Bondi, saying the Attorney General is doing a fantastic job. Some of his most loyal followers want her fired after the DOJ released a memo debunking the conspiracy theory that Epstein was murdered to cover up an incriminating client list. He died by suicide in 2019. Trump and his allies have leaned into the conspiracy, promising to expose the so-called deep state, a foundational gripe of the MAGA movement. That loyal base now faces two realities: that Trump lied to them about the conspiracy, or that he's now part of the deep state covering up the truth. Tony Waterman, Washington.
Also from the U.S., most American teenagers say it is important to them to graduate from college, with girls especially describing it as the key step for accomplishing their life goals. That's according to a new poll. Teenagers are also generally more upbeat than adults on college, despite concerns about tuition costs, soaring student loan debt, and the politicization of many issues in higher education. Jennifer King reports.
A majority of U.S. teens say graduating from college is very important for getting a job and learning life skills. About half see college as key for becoming a more informed member of society or forming their personal identity. That's according to a new poll from the Associated Press North Center for Public Affairs Research. In a survey of U.S. teens ages 13 to 17, girls were more likely than boys to prioritize college graduation, 70% compared to 54%. That lines up with changing demographics in the U.S., where more young women than men have completed a bachelor's degree. Just over half of teenagers surveyed say it's more challenging to raise a family, and 7 out of 10 say owning a home has become harder compared to their parents' generation. I'm Jennifer King.
And finally, the BBC announced it will no longer work with MasterChef host Greg Wallace after a report upheld dozens of misconduct allegations against him. A law firm investigation found that 45 of 83 claims, mostly involving inappropriate sexual language and behavior, were substantiated. Wallace, who left the show last year during the inquiry, denies the most serious allegations, but apologized for causing distress. The BBC admits it missed opportunities to address his behavior and criticized inadequate training and reporting systems on the show. The broadcaster says Wallace's return is untenable and vows to prevent future abuses of power in its productions. And that's a look at what's happening around the world. Stay tuned for business and sports, which are coming up after this break.
Learn about another voice and culture of Taiwan with We Love Hakka.
现在就让我们一起加入客家风情每日一客语。
Yo, welcome back to Daily Hakka here on ICRT.
Hello, 大家好，我係美嘉。
Hello, 你好，大家好，我係 Josephine. Associated with the performing arts are a lot of professions, including an artist. 画家也是一个艺文行业里面我以前小时候其实非常。
美感很好。
对，或者说卡通、插画之类的。画家怎么说？ Hakka, that's an artist or a painter. There's actually a very famous Hakka painter who just died just a few years ago. 已故的客籍画家何兆渠老师有许多写景的画作。哦 The late artist 赵渠 has a lot of landscape paintings.
古城嘅客家嘅花架。
高城嘅客家嘅花架。
何燒紙成啥？
何燒紙成。 landscape